listening to the prior discussion and some of the other things in your agenda the past couple of days, it's been a lot about cloud computing and a lot about shared services. But I was asked to come here today to talk to you about a hands-on implementation of a shared services environment for the Department of Labor's financial system. Now, our challenge at the Department of Labor was to replace a 20-year-old system that was not integrated, that didn't talk to other systems. It was a batch process. And what essentially happened was if you had a voucher, if you had a contract, you had a grant, you processed this information, you sort of threw it over a wall over to the financial system. Something happened behind that wall for a couple of days, and then it magically came out. As a CFO and the former Deputy Inspector General of Homeland Security, I'm uncomfortable with what was going on behind that wall a little bit. But it would come back out and the process would continue. But the process somehow managed to go forward. Now, being a CFO, it's going to be strange for me to say this, but the purpose of our financial system wasn't to create financial statements so that we get clean audits. Those are nice things to have. But the purpose of our financial system and our implementation was to provide modern tools for the program managers and the program staff so they could carry out their fiduciary responsibilities and also so they can make sound business decisions. We also need to do our external reporting, but those are the primary considerations. In addition, at Labor, what we were trying to do is to standardize business processes across a department that is very, very decentralized. I can't debate with anybody in this room what's the difference between a shared service and a cloud. You know it far better than I do. Most of the time, I just think I'm in a fog, so it works out fine. But what we decided to do early on, or what was decided to do early on, was to use a shared services approach. Instead of maintaining our own box and doing all the O&M, maintaining the licenses, doing all the things associated with it, it was decided to go forward with a shared services provider. And so that way we didn't have to worry about that piece of it. We knew it was known that we had a lot of other challenges of our own without having to worry about those kinds of activities. So along with GCE, who was our service provider, we stepped forward into that cloud. Our implementation took 18 months. So it was a good time frame for turnaround. The thing is that it dramatically changed our business processes within the department. That's a positive thing in the long run. In the short run, it has been a negative thing. We went live in January. We are living with a lot of the issues that came about from that change. The issues aren't created by the fact that we have a shared service environment. It's created by the fact that the Department of Labor didn't really see what was going to hit it in terms of the requirements, in terms of how big the change was. Instead of taking an invoice and manually walking the folder around the offices until it gets signed and processed and sent over to the accountants to pay it, it's all automated. It's scanned in when it comes in, and it's automatically routed. That change in the field and at headquarters has been one of our biggest challenges in trying to make this all work over the past 8 months. During the course of this implementation, we had a number of lessons learned. One of them is that if you only implement one piece of the system, and that's where OMB is going now, we have a guidance out that says that when you're doing financial systems, you really should be looking at the small pieces of it and cutting it down so that instead of these multi-year extravaganzas that are overpromised and underdelivered, that you actually have something you can actually carve out and you can accomplish. That's fine, and it works. But I've been doing this for 30 years. I've implemented centralized financial systems at FEMA, at the Department of Commerce, and now at Labor. And I've done it in terms of a central box that we maintained, the COTS package at FEMA, at the Department of Commerce. It was a software that we actually bought the licenses to and we actually hard-coded. And so it's very customized in another decentralized environment to this approach. And so in all of these cases, you end up making significant changes to the processes that you're looking at. And when you do this, when you carve out just a piece of it, you're now enforcing rules that the other systems may not even have. So now the CFO's office is enforcing rules of the FAR that the procurement system doesn't always enforce. If you have the same person as COTAR and contracting officer, it might get through the procurement system. It doesn't get through ours. It's created a lot of issues because you have to update things that normally in the old system you didn't update. Why is it staying when everything is my fault? Oh. I had a really good slide here. I need to go back, please. There we go. Now I need to go forward. Okay, it was a great slide. But so when you're doing an implementation like this, you also find out that the users of these other systems far outnumber your folks, and they don't have the same concerns you do. They don't have the same priorities you do. So when you are trying to make a change to and they don't realize the coordination that has to occur. So if you're trying to make a change in one system, then when you've integrated something that was never integrated before, all of a sudden you're making all kinds of changes across the board. And what we in the CIO have found is that if a vendor, which occurred to us, a vendor made a small change in a system over a weekend, they put a patch in to the procurement system. It totally blew us out of the water Monday morning. The travel provider made a small change to their processing system. Our help desk went crazy Monday morning because we couldn't process authorizations. So we've created a whole new governance issue that we really didn't anticipate that would be as significant as it is. And so as a result, we have to change how we test things and how we govern things. Our CIO is looking at a integrated test environment for all the softwares that are working together within the department. And in addition, we're looking at the owners of those, not just the technical folks, although I love the technical folks, but not just the technical folks have to be in charge of maintaining those systems, but the people that own those processes have to be involved. The assistant secretaries, the deputy assistant secretaries, the CFO, the CIO, the chief procurement officer, those folks have to be directly involved in how we manage these operations. Another lesson learned that we really had out of this process is that when you are looking at doing an implementation, perception is everything. In the Department of Labor, we had a failed implementation attempt several years ago. Spent almost $35 million, got nothing. It's not unheard of in the federal government. And so as a result, when this implementation came around, people said, well, I don't know if it's really going to happen, don't know if it's really going to occur. And so as a result, they didn't take it that seriously. Then we encountered a 3-month delay between this, October 1st and January 1st. And because of that, people still started saying, well, maybe I'm not going to take this training so seriously. So when we actually did go live in January, we had to do a crash course on how to train people, give them OJT, and set up literally computer training rooms to do nothing but process vouchers and invoices and contracts, just because the people had not really digested what we had done and traveling to the field on 2 different occasions and trying to do the training a couple of cycles. So as a result, we had a huge effort in trying to catch up just because of the perception. Okay, and the last thing I'll say is that as a result of the implementation, we also learned that what doesn't happen, and I've seen this in the CFO community before, everybody talks about best practices. Everybody talks about using the best available information and going and looking at what other people do. And we do call around, but what we're not good at, and what wasn't done in this case, to the extent it should have been, is we didn't study other implementations to see what other instances, did other people have similar issues, other shared service providers have similar issues in changing business processes that we were going through. So as a result, we encountered some issues that we probably shouldn't have had we done a little bit more homework. So what I'll say is, in conclusion, is that I've been doing this for over 30 years, I've done it in multiple places, and I've done it multiple ways, and I really do believe that the OMB push towards shared services ought to be even stronger than it is, and that in the CIO community, when your CFO comes to you, your financial people come to you and say they want to do an implementation, and they want to build their own box, or they want to put their own system in place, you ought to make them look real, real hard at shared services environments, be they federal, be they commercial, I don't really care. But we don't need to be making more of these systems. We need to be making a lot fewer. Thank you very much. Have a good lunch.